All right, good evening, everybody. Kevin Marino here. I hope everybody is having an amazing evening. I will tell you, it has been an absolutely crazy day. Very exciting. This is the day we've been waiting for quite some time. And I'll tell you what, we have a very special guest tonight. We have a gentleman who has been behind the scenes putting this together for months. And I'm talking about the Solar Oil Project. Obviously, we are talking about it. We are not a company. We are actually a global movement, an initiative, something out there that people are going to take notice of because we are coming and they are going to see us. They're going to notice us, and they are not going to get away because I'll tell you, these folks have put together something that I think is just absolutely amazing. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on one of the owners of the companies that's involved, Mr. Hitesh Juneja. And I hope I got that right, Hitesh.
That was fantastic. I'm actually shocked. I feel like I'm back in India or something. So that was great. So thank you very much for that introduction, Kevin. Always a pleasure to be on a webinar with you. And I see there's a lot of people still joining. So we're going to keep letting them in as they join. But I'm going to take really about 10 minutes to go through a very quick presentation of what is probably the most exciting thing that you guys will see in a long time, that I've definitely been a part of for a very long time. And I've been involved in some very, very interesting things. I've been a co-owner of a company where we did $4.5 billion in GMV. Been a co-owner in a few different endeavors, very large investment companies as well. And this is by far the most exciting thing so far. It's so good because the actual value that we bring to the world is so obvious so quickly. So if everybody can just pay attention for about 10 minutes, and after this, we're going to go rogue a little bit. I'm going to turn the presentation off, and we're just going to go through some general principles that will help you understand exactly why this is so unique, why this is so different from everything else you might have seen so far. Okay, so right here, we begin with pointing out that the Solar Oil Project is not a company, and you will see why it's not a company here in a moment. Now, I just want to make a quick note that we will be discussing about things like energy and oil and oil production and the prices of oil. So there's going to be talk about some different financial things here, which should not be taken as any kind of advice, financial or investment advice. This is all just discussions of what different scenarios look like moving forward. Okay, so the Solar Oil Project, which is not a company, is primarily created to deal with a secret ecological crisis. And I call it a secret because most people are unaware of it, even though it is probably the most obvious, the most clear and practical environmental hazard that we have today. Okay, I'm not talking about global warming. I'm not talking about ocean cleanup or things like that. This is actually the issue of abandoned oil wells. Okay, now most people seem to be unaware of it. I can almost guarantee that half the people on this call just went, "What? Abandoned oil wells? How is that an issue?" Because this is not talked about a whole lot because of many different political and economic reasons. What's going on right now is that we have millions of abandoned oil wells in North America, actually globally, but really primarily in North America, that are a very serious environmental hazard. You can see right here, an article from the Reuters publication, from the Texas Tribune. And this environmental hazard is so big that currently it's estimated that the governments in North America alone will spend about $500 billion just on cleanup of this problem. Okay, just in Texas alone, which is where I'm in Dallas, we're expecting about $117 billion that will be spent on this cleanup. And this is kind of insane when you think about where this problem came from. It's a very, very simple concept. We have been using very inefficient technology for a very long time. Okay, if any of you have driven around the country, most of you actually have something to do with the oil and gas industry. You're probably familiar with the picture that you see on the left. That's what a traditional oil well pump jack looks like. Okay, and this is a fairly inefficient technology when it comes to really low volume oil wells. So when an oil well starts producing lower and lower amounts of oil, there comes a point where this technology is just not efficient enough for it to make sense. So when the prices of oil fluctuate, every single time that happens, a ton of these wells, thousands of these wells, get abandoned. And that results in water contamination, soil contamination, carbon, methane, all sorts of stuff. And obviously results in a pretty significant economic problem as well, since all of us are the ones who have to pay for the cleanup, whether we do it by taxes or we do it through excess cost or whatever, but it falls on us. Now, obviously, oil is not going away as an industry. Okay. I drive a Tesla myself. I get this question all the time. Isn't oil something that's going to go away? Yeah, but not maybe in 40 years, 50 years. But for the next couple of decades, the oil industry is going to be around because it is used in a lot more than just producing gasoline. It's part of jet fuels. It's part of all of the pharmaceutical stuff that is produced, a lot of the plastics that are produced, and so on. So this industry isn't going to go away. We have a very serious problem on our hands. And the solar oil project has really come together to try and deal with this problem in a very unique and innovative manner. And it's a solution which allows you to really participate in it at the same time. Okay, here's how it works. It's very, very common sense solution. You replace these old, traditional, massive, inefficient, traditional pump jacks, and you replace them with eco-friendly, solar-powered, hyper-efficient new pumps. Okay, that's it. It's a very common sense solution. Let's just take the inefficient stuff off. Let's put new, hyper-efficient technology on instead, which is solar powered, which results in much cleaner environment, which results in much higher increased efficiency, which means because you have increased efficiency, you have a much lower cost to produce the oil. Okay, now what that means is that you can now go in and revitalize economies that have been decimated in some areas. Areas in Arkansas and Louisiana, in areas of Texas, Oklahoma, you can absolutely revitalize the whole area because you can start deploying these. And now you have these oil wells that were once abandoned and now they're producing again. And you can do all of this while dramatically reducing the carbon intensity by about 90% in the entire process. Now, this is something that you can actually participate in, and you can actually benefit from this entire process while you're actually helping restore the planet. Okay, so let's break down how that happens. In the solar oil project, we have a smart contract driven system that allows anybody around the world to participate in it and say, I want to participate in helping take these old abandoned oil wells and revitalize them, or take actual productive oil wells right now and take the old technology off, put the new technology on. And when you do that, the revenue from all of this oil production gets rerouted to you as a participant. It's very, very common sense stuff. And up until now, this has been a very niche thing that has primarily been used by major corporations, or it's been used by some politicians with insider access and stuff. That's what's been going on. And now, because of the level of the scale that this project is able to reach with all the different relationships involved in this, you can benefit from this anywhere in the world. You can participate in this. You don't have to be in one of these states. You don't have to be in one of the locations where there are oil wells. You can participate and you can start receiving revenue from this oil production. Now, because there are millions of these oil wells, this is practically a limitless opportunity. There's massive, massive space in the market for this. We can keep growing for a long time to come, which is something we have to always be cognizant of, because there are so many things out there that, say, oh, you can participate and you can do so much, but they're small, localized markets, and people around the world really can't participate in something like that. This is a massive, massive industry. Everybody knows how big oil and gas is. And within that industry, this is a humongous opportunity of its own. So let's talk about very quickly how the participation actually works. Okay, you go to the website and you set up a completely free account. There are no monthly fees. There is no, special startup pack that you have to buy or anything like that. You just create your account. You can do all your due diligence. You can look around. You can look at all of the data available on there. And then you decide at some point how much you want to participate. And the way you participate is very simple. You purchase something called a solar oil access token, which is this token that you see in the second step. And it always has a fixed value. It's very, very straightforward. You can basically buy a token for 10 cents. So for $20, you can buy 200 tokens and you can participate in this. Then you take this token, which gives you access to the production from these oil wells, and you stake it. And for the next 10 years, these oil wells that you are participating in, that you're helping fix the problem of, for the next 10 years, the oil production from these oil wells gets credited to you in the form of a second token called the SOPX, or the solar oil production token. Okay. So every single day when these oil wells report their production, each barrel of oil that is produced is represented by one new SOPX token. And this is a very, very critical part here for any of you who have participated in, different crypto projects or, tokenization projects before. This is not a case of there's a whole bunch of tokens that exist out there and we are going to issue them to people at random points. No, it's driven by a smart contract. It is controlled by a smart contract such that the token is only issued into the participant's account, into the access holder's account, when there is a barrel of oil produced. Okay, this makes sure that there is a lot of integrity and transparency in the entire system. You know where the revenue is coming from, you know where the production is coming from, and you have the option to do what you want with that production token. You can hold it, you can sell it at the current oil market price, you can exchange it for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on. All of those options are available to you. It's your choice. And that brings me to a very critical point, which is, how do you know what the value of this token is? Now, this is another important piece, because you have, projects and companies and so on out there where they will have some token and they'll magically tell you every day what the value of the token is. And nobody knows why that is. Nobody knows what drives the value of the token. This right here tells us what the value of the token is very simply, because the value of this SOPX token, since it represents a barrel of oil, it is always tied to the value of the global WTI crude price, which is the global oil price. So nobody can manipulate this. Nobody can mess around with this. There is absolute transparency and integrity in this all the way through. And it really sets this apart from everything else that has existed out there. So every single day, all you do is you stake your tokens once. Every single day you receive your production tokens and you decide what you want to do with them. It literally is like owning your own oil business. It's very, very interesting, obviously, without having to deal with all the headaches that go with it. Now, next obvious question should be, okay, well, what do we think that oil will be worth, right? Don't we think that the price of oil is going down over time? Yeah, we all agree that the price of oil is going to go down over time. However, over the next 20 years, this is going to be an industry in massive, massive demand. In fact, you can see right here, JP Morgan has predicted a $190 price for oil. There have been quite a few different predictions around it. Right now, the expected 10-year average is around $72 in that neighborhood. So here is a very simple example of what that would look like. So if you were to purchase SOAX tokens, which are access tokens, let's say you got 300,000 of them, which represents $30,000 in this case. If you were to stake them and did nothing else, that's it. You just stake these tokens and you expect that the price of oil averages 67, which is less than the current expectation, but let's say it was 67. In that case, you would expect to see somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,800 barrels of oil that would be produced, that would be given to you as a reward. And you would be able to get an actual oil value out of that of about $188,000. That's assuming you did nothing. Okay, you're just you're staking the access token in oil and you are reaping the benefits of it. The other great thing about this is that you are able to do something that all major successful companies do to grow, which is you can constantly keep recirculating your oil revenues to get more access tokens and keep them running on autopilot. So you have a setting inside the Solar Oil platform that allows you to say, look, every time there is oil that is produced, I want to take a portion of that oil, I want to sell it, and I wanted to get more access tokens. So my holdings keep growing, which is exactly what we do in the oil business, right? In the oil business, as we get revenues out of these oil wells, we go and get more oil wells to deploy the equipment on, right? That's just what we do in the real world. And that's exactly what you can do here as well, using tokenization instead. So here is what that does in that scenario. If all you were to do was to take 100,000 tokens day one and just stake them and do nothing else, and the 10-year average price of oil was 55, okay, which we are being very conservative at this point, then you're looking at an estimated value of around $47,000 over the coming 10 years. And that's a really, really nice return, right? That's a fantastic thing over time. However, if instead you said, look, over the next 10 years, every single time I have oil produced, I want to also take 75% of that and get more access tokens, then over the next 20 years, this is what it looks like. That same 100,000 tokens, which is $10,000, turns into estimated oil value of around 1.5 million. Now, obviously, if the price of oil goes up, if it was $65 instead of 55 over this time period, then you're looking at something like 3 million or so on. If instead you were compounding more than that, or you were adding to it over time, then the numbers kind of get nuts, right? You go into the millions and so on. And that's one of the reasons why I pointed out that even though these numbers can get very, very large, the market exists to support all of this and support all of it very, very easily. In fact, I'm about to actually go out of the presentation and show you guys something live that will really drive this point home. So the compounding effect basically keeps going and keeps increasing your holdings over time as the oil revenue starts increasing as well. It just keeps running in a cyclical fashion. You never have to worry about managing all of this stuff too much yourself. Now, like everything else, the more people that are involved in any initiative or any platform, the more powerful it becomes. And that's the case here as well. And because we are so focused on this being the next major energy and oil production company that exists out there, we have chosen a structure that is very, very similar to all the major companies out there. You can simply share this with your friends if you want to, if that's of interest, and you receive a 10% reward. That's it. Very, very simple, very straightforward. None of the special fangled, 8 tiers and 9 pyramids and 12 matrices or whatever is the hot thing out there right now. It's a real project with real value, so you don't need any of that stuff. However, one great thing that you're able to do with this platform is you are able to track and see in real time what the actual impact is around the world of what you're doing. Okay, I'm actually going to show you an example of that again here in a minute, going live through all of this. So you can see that over time, not only do you earn revenue from oil, but you also earn revenue based on the kind of global impact you're actually having out there in terms of how much energy you're offsetting, how many jobs you're helping create, how much carbon you're offsetting, and so on. So for the very first time, I think most of you can see that in a very literal sense, you have a project where you can help heal the world and you can actually get rewarded for it along the way. You can actually benefit from it in a very real manner. It's not just out of kindness of your heart, although that's a nice thing. It's not just because you care about the environment, although we all should. This is genuinely the first project that we have seen that very heavily incentivizes you to participate in this in the right way. So like we said in the beginning, Solar Oil Project, it's not just a company, it's a true global initiative that is designed to bring about some very real and very measurable change around the world. Now, I'm going to take a moment. In the meantime, I know some of you have posted a bunch of questions. That's fantastic. Please post more questions because we are going to answer all the questions you have. And I particularly prefer if there are some tough questions because those are always more fun. But I want to show you guys a couple of things really quick. So let me go ahead and change my screen share. Okay. Kevin, if you can confirm, you can see my screen.
I'm still seeing Solar Oil Project.
Okay. Are you able to see my screen now?
There we go.
Okay. So I want to take a moment. And first, I want to address a question that I know always comes up. And I hope it comes up every time because it's a great question. The question should be, okay, this means that over the next 10 to 20 years, if we really get the kind of traction we're expecting, and we get millions of people participating in this, that there needs to be enough oil production in the US alone right now to support that, right? Because this is a very simple way to test and check if any platform out there, when they talk about, having a system that has a source of revenue that you don't have to go recruit for or you don't have to go work for, right? You have to think about, is there really a market for that? So I really like doing this this one thing, because numbers don't lie. So here it is right now. I'm on Wikipedia, and this right here is talking about how just in 2015, and this number is higher now, actually, we're over 1 million, but stripper wells, which is the low volume oil wells, the kind of oil wells that we work with, they are responsible for about almost 1 million barrels of oil per day. Okay. So let's take that number, 915,000 barrels of oil every single day for 20 years. And let's assume that the average price of oil is 55, which is what we used in our modeling earlier. That represents $367 billion right there. That's not counting all the abandoned production that we can take over and so on. This is just the current production that exists in the US alone. The point being that this is an absolutely massive, massive industry. And within that massive industry, we are focused on the one specific section that needs the most help. It's the one section that is most prone to being abandoned. And it's the one section that has virtually no competition right now, because the only manufacturers that build the technology that helps these oil wells are our partners on these projects. So it's just, and I mean, it's mind-boggling when you start thinking about it. So from our perspective, this is probably the only thing that exists out there. I don't know, Kevin, about you, but you have seen more things out there than I have. But from my perspective, this is pretty much the only thing out there that has a source of revenue and you can genuinely verify it. You can back it up. You can go to government websites and look up what their production looks like.
Well, and Hitesh, I think you said it beautifully, because the what you see here is the option of people to do this on a passive nature, to participate and not have to play a game like many of the ones out there, where if you don't go out and recruit, you can't make any money. This is simply, getting involved, participating, receiving the rewards. If you'd like to share it, you can bring in more rewards due to your 6 degrees of influence out there that range around the world eventually.
Yep. And actually, I want to take a moment and walk you guys through the actual process live. But before I do that, I just want to make a very quick point, because this kind of gets left out. I'm sure everybody on this call, like me, is offered like 20 different opportunities a day, right? Everybody's constantly saying, join this, join that, do this. So I want to point out, like, I have been remarkably successful in this space, right? It's been an absolute blessing to me. But I've been very, very careful about what we choose to put our attention on, what we choose to put our energy in. And this is my simple test of if I'm going to focus on something, if I'm going to work on something. The very first thing is that it has to solve a real problem, and you have to be able to measure it, right? This is one of the few projects where you can immediately see what the problem is, immediately see what we are solving, and you have a very real way to measure it. And you can measure it in such great detail that it's actually really fun. I'm going to show you guys in the back office in a minute. The second is that you should focus on things that have some semblance of long-term predictability. You know it's going to be around for some time. You really don't want to focus on things like that's like a loophole that's going to last maybe 5 months, maybe 2 years. You don't know, because it's not in your control. So you want to focus on long-term things, which is obviously what this is. These oil wells have a pretty long lifespan. Once we put this technology in the ground, it's not going away anywhere, right? You can't just turn back time and say, oh, we actually didn't put pumps in the ground. It's done, right? It's something very, very real. And finally, this follows what I like to call the cost offset model, which means your earnings, your revenue, your business is not dependent on you going out there and recruiting people. Okay. I mean, I can ask some of you guys on this call are, excellent marketers, people like Kevin, right? People like Mike, people like Tom. Okay. You guys who are on the call are kind of the exceptions. But does anybody really love being a salesperson? Does anybody on this call really say, I absolutely love going to my aunts and uncles and pitching them candles and makeup, right? I don't think there's anybody out there who likes that. But there is something else that's really wrong about it, which is a mathematical problem, right? That mathematical problem is very simple. In a usual business opportunity, quote unquote, if you want to be profitable, what do you have to do? You have to go out there, and then you have to get a few different people involved, right? Maybe you have to get, Uncle Joe, and you have to get Uncle Kevin, and you have to get maybe Aunt Mary, right? But what happens in this process? They have to now lose money for you to break even. And then that cycle repeats itself. So now for Aunt Mary to break even, she has to go out there and somehow recruit 3 people. And now these 3 people are going to be in a loss. So there's a mathematical reason why majority of the people in these companies fail. And this does not follow that model. In this model, you do not have to go share it with anybody if you don't want to. You don't have to bring anybody in. You shouldn't have to if you don't want to whatsoever. If you want to talk about it because it's such an amazing project and we are making some real difference in the world, that's great. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. So from our perspective, from most of the people that I talk with, that's one of the things they really like about this, that this is not dependent on you going out there and building teams and doing all that stuff unless you actually want to, which means this is applicable for the 99% of people who are not good at it or don't enjoy it, right? And hopefully, Kevin, that I don't mean to say that you don't like doing it, but I'm sure you see why most people wouldn't.
Oh, 100%. You know, we get that. And it's not always a complaint. It's just the fact that some people aren't comfortable, as you stated.
Yep.
But what we have found is when you put an amazing opportunity where people are not required and they're all of a sudden they're involved with something that they now become very proud of, they just start talking about it because it now has become something that's become a part of them.
Exactly. 100%. So guys, let me take a moment and walk you guys very quickly through the entire process of how you can get started, how the whole thing works. So this right here is how easy it is for you to get started. Okay. Again, there are no 8 different steps. There are no 12 packages to choose, and there's no auto ships to select, nothing like that. You literally just go here, you create an account. That's it. Okay. And Kevin will provide you guys, everybody who's on this call, he will provide you guys with the right links and all that kind of stuff. So you can get started. Now, once you are in, this is literally all it takes. You log in and then you go here and you decide how many tokens you want to purchase. That's it. You say, I want to purchase 5,000 tokens because I don't have a big budget right now. Somebody might come in. We have people coming in saying, I want to buy 100,000 tokens or 500,000 tokens because they see what this will be what this will do for them over the next 5 to 10 years. So you select whether you want to pay with Ethereum, which you can do with MetaMask, or you want to pay with Bitcoin. Again, it's very straightforward. It's very quick. It gets done in about a minute and a half is how long you will spend on the entire setup from creating your account to coming in here. Okay. Now, once you've done that, you will have some SOX available. Like in my account, you can see I have about 51,000 tokens available. I can go straight to staking. I click on add a new staking contract and I select a portfolio of oil wells that I want to help fix. Okay, so this right here is showing me an oil well portfolio that has already received 0.2% of the staking that it can support. It gives me a description of where these oil wells are located, what the expected production of oil is, all that good stuff. And I can just simply put in here how many oil wells, how many tokens I want to stake on this particular portfolio. And that's it. So this right here was the entire process. At this point, I have staked a bunch of tokens, which means basically that the next time production happens at these oil wells, that production is going to come out in the form of SOPX, which is a production token, and it's going to show up in my account. When that happens, I decide what to do with that oil, right? I can go ahead and say, so for example, in this account, I already have 1.6 barrels of oil available. I can go in here and say, look, I want you to convert this oil. And right here, it's telling me what the value of my token is based on the current price of oil. It tells me right here, I can convert this to Bitcoin, to Ethereum. I can pull it out, or I can use it to buy more access tokens if I want to. That's all I have to do. Or I can even go in and say, I want this done automatically for me on my behalf. And I can do that right here in my redemption settings. So I can set here that, look, I want every day when my oil is produced, I want you to take 65% of that and buy new SOX tokens on my behalf. And the other 35% I want to leave in my wallet, right? So you are in complete control of what happens with your oil. It's almost like if you drove up in your truck to the oil well and said, this much oil I want to load in my truck, I'm going to take it away with me. This much oil I want you to sell. and just hand me the money for it. It's basically, that's what you're doing here. Okay, that's your level of control in this platform. And that's it. At that point, you are 100% done. There's nothing more you need to do on a daily basis, on a management basis. You just want to keep an eye on what's going on with the price of oil. How you want to manage your oil is up to you. Okay, those are decisions that you make. And guys, keep posting more questions. I see there are a lot of questions in there already. I'm going to go over all of those in like 2 more minutes. And then finally, we discussed the point of sharing and the point of the impact you can make. So you can actually see, you can refer users to your account to join the platform. And when they purchase these tokens, you receive some reward, which is 10% of whatever they purchased for that. Okay, very, very straightforward. Now, the part that is my absolute favorite part is this right here, which is your social impact. So this system actually tracks across your 6 degrees of influence, what is the actual impact you're having out there on the world? Okay, so let me show you an example. So right here on my 4th degree of influence, okay, that means my friends who I shared this with, and then their friends and their friends and their friends going out there, they have already offset, because of the number of oil wells that are being helped, because the portfolios they're working on, they have offset 1,661 pounds of carbon. That's right about 400 metric tons. And then they've offset a little more than a megawatt of electricity, because we are replacing the grid electricity with solar electricity, or in some cases, we're just reducing the electric consumption. And it has created 1,365 paid hours of jobs so far, right? This is pretty powerful stuff. The fact that you can track this and you can see what's going on, and then this is set up like achievements. So when you have had a big enough of an impact out there in one of these things, you can see right here, I earned a little reward for that as well. So the greater your impact out there in helping solve this problem, you're actually receiving rewards for that as well, based on how much of a social impact you're actually generating, how many pounds of carbon have been offset, and so on. So you can see that 3 times already, I have received this carbon offset or the carbon warrior achievement by fulfilling this to about 550 pounds, which is 1 metric ton. So that's the entirety of the back office. It's very straightforward, because most of the hard work, most of the actual work happens out there in the oil fields, the crews installing the technology and so on. This is very straightforward, not a whole lot for you to do. But what you do here is very, very significant, and it's very, very impactful, as you can see right here. So I think I covered everything, Kevin. I don't think I've missed anything there. If there's something you want me to cover, let me know. Otherwise, we can move to the Q&A.
I'll tell you what, I think that you went through a lot of information and really covered it tremendously. So thank you very much for that. And I mean, I've been through the back office today, going through, I finally got to play with a lot of the buttons that I've been seeing you play with here for the last month.
Yep.
And it's interesting. I'm finding my way around, and you can set within your social area, you can set the share, or it's in the share section where you can set that to compound as well.
Correct. Yep. You can decide what you want to do. When you do receive any commissions, what you want to do with that. I should actually have this set up, and I didn't. There we go.
Well, that actually leads right into the first question that was posed. And the question was, when somebody is compounding, you have a certain amount that goes back into SOAX that's automatically going into a new smart contract. Does the remainder of it stay in a particular wallet? Is it an Ethereum wallet? Is it Bitcoin wallet?
Yes, all of this is built on the Ethereum blockchain. So both the tokens, the SOAX and the SOPX, are Ethereum-based tokens. I think for those of you who are very interested in both the due diligence and the technology aspect of it, there is a white paper on the website that you can go through in a lot of detail. Kevin, you can share your link with everybody after this, or whoever has invited you to the presentation. You can get the link from them. You can go create an account, but you can also go and actually review the white paper that is on the site. And there's a lot more detail on the site as well, by the way. So you can go through all of this stuff. You have a lot of FAQs answered. You have this calculator that you can use to see, in different scenarios what happens. And you have all these questions answered here in a fair bit of detail. And then finally, you can go to this white paper, which covers a lot of these different, more detailed questions about, what actually happens in the oil production side, how does it actually flow, what is the technology behind the token that itself, what is the pricing pegging, and so on. All of this stuff is in here. So just want everybody to be aware, I am not the only source or even the primary source of information. You can see all of this out here. It's very detailed. And I think, Kevin, you're the one who said you like how it was concise, but it was very detailed at the same time.
Yeah, the white paper I thought was it was enlightening to me because there was a few pieces that I didn't think of. And I'm pretty thorough, and we have a bunch of incredibly thorough people who are on the call, on the Zoom here. And, there were some things that we all missed and that I found very, very interesting. So I think most of you will find this a good read. It's not a novel. It's 32 pages or so. And it's a good read, and it's got all the FAQs plus some forward-looking information that you may find interesting about the project.
Excellent.
So one of the questions is, do they have a choice of how they're being paid, whether it's in Ethereum or Bitcoin, or does it default to one of them based on?
So you actually get paid when, in terms of your oil production, you receive oil production specifically just in one way, which is your SOPX token, which is an Ethereum-based token. However, what you do with that token is up to you, right? So you decide what you want to convert that to afterwards. So if I have, for example, 1.5 SOPX available in my account and the current price of oil is 47.8, on that basis, I can convert this SOPX to Ethereum, 0.07 Ethereum, or to 0.0019 Bitcoin, or I can convert it to additional SOX if I want. I can put my Bitcoin address in here, and then in a few hours, I will have the Bitcoin sent to me. And this SOPX gets burned in the process. That means it gets destroyed. Again, very much like real world oil usage, right? So if I sell my oil to a refinery, that barrel of oil is destroyed. That goes away. Instead, it comes out with, a little bit of jet fuel and a little bit of asphalt and a little bit of plastics and so on. So that's exactly how it works. And you are not tied down to one particular wallet. It's your choice. You can say, look, I want it sent to this wallet today, and I want to send to a different wallet tomorrow. That's up to you. It's all your choice. And again, I feel like that's such an important thing to highlight these days, because there are so many things that have come out there, and it's difficult for most people to tell, the difference between something that's legitimate and real versus something that is just a cleverly disguised, unscrupulous thing of some kind, without saying the obvious word. The reason why you have so much flexibility here is because this is your token. Once you get this is yours. You decide what you want to do with it. And there is nothing that the Solar Oil project can do about it anyway, right? There is no real control over it. They're not stockpiling the oil. The oil is being picked up from the oil wells and being sold. So there is no real benefit to Solar Oil project in trying to keep you from your SOPX tokens. So that's one of the great things about this, is that everybody's interests are aligned. Everybody wants to increase the oil production while reducing the environmental impact. So we're all on the same page.
Great. Nonprofits. Are nonprofits able to get involved with SOP?
Yeah, because remember so there is no real process here. It's really, you are participating as a wallet, right? You're really participating in the token as a token holder. So yes, if you're a nonprofit, whatever kind of entity you are, doesn't matter, because all the taxation, all the accounting is stuff that you do on your side when you pull out this oil production, right? So that's all on your side. It has nothing to do with the Solar Oil project itself. Again, one of the hallmarks of it not being a company, right? It's not a company paying you commissions. This is you interacting with the token ecosystem to go out there and help get oil wells revitalized, and the oil production comes to you. You take your oil production and you go do with it what you want. This is simply a platform along the way, like Uber is the platform that connects, the driver to the passenger. It's kind of the idea here. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but big picture stuff that kind of works. So you are not being paid by Solar Oil project. You are simply taking your own token, and then you are taking the token out there. You're converting it yourself. When you have Bitcoin or Ethereum, you are responsible for converting that to USD or Kenyan shillings or British pound, wherever you might be in the world. That's up to you, not up to this project.
Perfect. Okay. So the next question comes in a form of when people are restaking or compounding and they're taking a further. Is that automatic in the portfolio that they already are staked in, or might it change going forward?
So it automatically goes to the currently available portfolio. Okay, so you will notice that at any given point in time, there are a maximum of 2 portfolios available, but usually there's just one. So we can see that on this portfolio, it has a lot of capacity right now. It can support another 99.8 million tokens, right? So when you are staking, you have auto staking on or restaking on, it will first check, can it restake on the same portfolio that you're already on? And if it can, then it'll do that. If it cannot, then it'll go to the next portfolio. And it's very, very straightforward. It's not very academic in the sense of how it calculates it. It's simply, it prioritizes restaking it on the same portfolio you're already on. And if that portfolio is completed, then it'll go to the next one.
Great. The smart contracts, you have the ability to track them and to view them.
Of course. Yep. All the smart contracts are auditable. There's actually an audit report that they will be publishing in Q1 as well. I believe they're going to be doing semi-annually or quarterly smart contract audit reports, just to make sure that everybody's safe, everybody can see that there is no real danger, no real risk, and that everything is as it seems. That when the oil production comes in, that it is indeed at that point that the SOPX token moves and is issued into the other wallet. And it is when you stake that your production is based on your staking and how many tokens you have in the staked wallet. So there are smart contracts for these two things, and those are both auditable.
Great. And can people review the wording on the smart contracts themselves?
That is something that they will have to agree to do. I think they might be a little hesitant to do it too publicly, because there is a risk of, that is one of the risks of smart contracts, right? That you don't want people to dig in too deep and start to figure out things and start reverse engineering, going into stuff. But I'm pretty sure that if anybody is very interested in that, and you're a developer yourself, you want to really look at the Solidity code involved in it. As you can tell by the accent, numbers and code is kind of my thing. So I'm interested in that. So I asked them for it, and they did let me review it. So I would recommend that, create your account, go in here to the support side and just send them a chat message and say, hey, I would really like to look at your smart contract code for the staking and for the production of the oil. Can I please take a look at it? I'm pretty sure they'll just let you.
That's amazing. That's something that I didn't expect. So obviously the question that is always one of the toughies out there that people are looking for is what is this modeled after, where they're thinking, or what's it modeled after, so the SEC is not going to be knocking on the door?
Well, I think anybody who is interested in that part would like that section in the white paper, and they would really like reading the 2 legal opinion letters on specifically this platform. In fact, I had a pretty interesting discussion with one of the primary watchdogs in the industry who loves the project, but that was his question as well. So let me walk you guys through this. There are 2 specific aspects to this entire project. One is the SOAX, which is an access token. And that is modeled after another project called Turnkey Jet, okay, or Jet Turnkey, I believe is the name. So if anybody's interested, you can actually look that up. It's called, and this will all be on the website, so you'll be able to look it up as well. Jet Turnkey is a project that last year received a no action letter from the SEC, and the SEC listed a pretty in-depth criteria saying, here are all the reasons why we don't believe this is a security offering. And that included a few things like this is an access token. It only provides access and that's all it does. It is not based on speculative value of this token in the markets. There were a whole series of things. The SOAX token and the Solar Oil project is modeled almost exactly on those specific points. And you'll actually find that written out. So this is a very competent, very good corporate team and a very good legal team that is involved in SOP. So they've done a very good job of saying, look, this is what we're modeling after on the SOAX side. The second piece is the SOPX, which is a commodity backed token. And that's just in a whole different category of its own, because the value of the token is not determined by SOP itself, right? So you don't have that speculative edge to it where you're saying, well, I think this token might be worth more in the future, so I'm going to buy a bunch of it, I'm going to hold on to it. That's not what's happening here. It's literally representative of the barrel of oil that has been produced. So that eliminates a lot of questions around, is it a security offering or is it not? And it also eliminates a very significant question around the commodity law, which is this a futures offering or not? So these are things that I know some of you are like, this is too cerebral. This is, now you're talking legalese and it doesn't make sense to me. That's fine. But some of you who are very into that stuff will really love how this has been structured, will really like how this has been approached, how much this is in compliance with everything that the SEC has asked for. And also the fact that these opinion letters from the attorneys will be available on the website itself. I believe they're supposed to be officially released tonight. So they should be on the website sometime tomorrow. And keep in mind, guys, the site is actually not live yet. We are able to show this to you because we have kind of inside access. We are able to get you in right now, even though we are in like a pre-launch stage, but this is actually, the platform actually works, right? Because oil is already being produced. So we are able to get you in and show you all these things. But if you went to the Solar Oil website right now, it'll tell you that it's coming soon, it's under construction. You can actually see that. If I go to solaroil.io, you'll see that it's coming soon. So keep in mind, a lot of the stuff that we are discussing right now, when this is fully live next week, if you went to this website, you'll be able to access all of these things right on there.
I'll tell you what, Hitesh, this is, I think, the way a lot of folks are looking at this is an amazing Christmas present.
Well, that's what we were going for.
This holiday season, in the following of just a horrific year unfortunately for many people, that things that they've gone through. So folks are really, really looking at this and getting ready to take part in a big way, participate in a big way, not just here in the U.S., but in many, many different parts of the country. Being excited that they see U.S. companies involved. And that, that's something that really says a lot for what you guys have put together and just power of what we have in our hands right now.
Yeah, I'm glad you see it the same way. That's exactly what we thought, that this is just such a great project. And this is one of the weird things, right? Like when we talk about silver lining and things, one of the reasons that this project has really got so much traction this year with traditional investors, okay, I'm not talking about even the Solar Oil project, but in the traditional sense, is this is the first time in history that the oil market was absolutely destroyed in April. I think you'll all remember that it was the worst time and the lowest point for oil in history. And that actually caused such widespread harm in the oil industry that suddenly everybody was much more open to something like this, where we come in and say, hey, why don't we replace this decades old technology with this new stuff? As you know, in every industry, it's very difficult to make significant change, right? Inertia is a big thing to fight against. And it's weird because as bad as this year was, it created an opportunity for us to be able to come in and actually make this happen, where all the people who would have traditionally opposed it and said, you know what, that oil well has been producing oil for me for the last 80 years, you're not touching it. Now, suddenly they're all saying, hey, can I work with you? Can I be one of the oil well owners that you do this for? And, that's another really good thing about this. So there is an opportunity actually for people who own oil wells that meet the right criteria. They can actually go on Solar Oil platform and they can actually apply to have their oil wells evaluated to see if they can be added in and they can be modernized with this technology as well. So there's going to be a very significant effect of this project. Like we've been saying, it's an initiative. It is so much beyond anything you guys might have thought of or seen before. It's so real. It's so deeply impactful in all these different ways, economically, financially, for people who are getting involved in this, and also for people who are just being helped by it. People who have owned oil wells, or people who own the land, or people who have been workers in the oil fields. It's just an absolutely tremendous thing for them.
Well, Hitesh, I want to thank you for showing us so much of the information, and looking forward to being able to go through. And I know some of the folks are looking forward to reading some of the bios of the people behind this project.
That's on the site as well. There's actually an About Us section, which gives information into the backgrounds and bios of some of the people involved. And there are more people that will be added onto this as we go on as well. But it's again, this is so transparent, guys. This is so, I think you'll be surprised, because I know for a fact that there are people, when we began this call, that in their head, they were like, this sounds interesting, but is it really there? Like, is everything really there? And I'm hoping that by the end of this call, you guys are going, wow, this is so openly transparent and good. There's no way this thing can't be awesome. And the fact you can verify this, the fact you can go to Wikipedia and verify the numbers that we're talking about, the fact that you can go to government websites and verify, you can go and type into Google right now, abandoned oil wells USA, and you will find so many news reports like you can see right here. Here's another one that I have never been on. This is from 2 years ago. It's openly verifiable, and it's common sense, right? You can logically see how this works. Anyways, I know we're coming on to the end of the time that was allotted. Kevin, if there's any final questions, let me know. But I hope we have done a good job covering it.
I think you've done an amazing job covering it. I think that the project itself is one that is just incredibly based. The fact that we can clean up the environment, and people can make money while cleaning the environment where others are not getting stuck with it. I mean, that is just an amazing opportunity for so many folks out there. And it's not limited to the environmentalists, the capitalists. Everybody can come together on this and then be part of this project going forward, because there's something in it for everybody. And I want to thank you this evening for taking the time to go through all of this information with us, and hope you'll be back soon.
No, this was absolutely fantastic. Thank you for having me. And if there are more questions from your team, you know how to reach me. I look forward to talking with you soon.
All right, everybody, have an amazing evening. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thank you again, very, very special guest, Hitesh, for joining us. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.